What up, y'all? DC Fago Guy. Today we're going to be reviewing The Bastard Son by Something Out of Nothing, aka S.O.N. Now, this album dropped back in March, and I am just now getting around to reviewing this album because there's a lot of depth to this album. This is the first in a series known as the Council of Nine. It is very similar to the Six Joker cards, as in we have a character who is being presented to us with a message and a story to be told to the listener for them to absorb and learn from. That being said, there is two ways to listen to this album. There is strictly to go in listening to the music, or you can listen to the message and the meaning, to listen to the meaning and listen to the message that is being presented to you by S.O.N. King Umbra is the entity, Bastard Son is what he is or who he is, and that is the name of the album. So when you are searching for this, if you have not listened, make sure you are looking up Something Out of Nothing and make sure you are looking for the Bastard Son. But just know that the character is known as King Umbra. Now, I struggled a lot when I first started listening to this album with understanding fully what King Umbra represented. It took me getting the physical copy of the album to really kind of understand more about it, and also just to observe other people's conversations about the album. The homie Gage, aka Wasteland Waldo, has really understood this album pretty well, and he has been a very big help for me on understanding this, because I was struggling quite a bit with fully understanding what King Umbra's purpose was. To me, on my first listen, or my first few listens, what I was understanding about King Umbra is he was this being he was kind of represented by the moon. His image, he looks like a moon-like figure. So my understanding of it was he is this moon, he is the moon, and he is watching over humanity, and he's watching them go through life and watching all the mistakes that they make. That was pretty evident, pretty clear, pretty right away just from the artwork itself. Going into it, there was definitely a lot of messages about reincarnation. And that was where I was really starting to struggle. Is King Umbra the person who allows you to reincarnate, or is there more to it? And again, this is where getting the physical copy was really helpful. And also, Gage, just straight up in my Discord server, somebody asked about the lore and he just gave a great synopsis. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And I really should have reached out to Gage a lot sooner to kind of have that conversation with him. But I also I enjoy trying to interpret things in my own way. But like I said, the furthest I could interpret this was that he was a moon-like figure. He was a moon-like being that watched over humanity. So diving into the book is actually really great. I'm going to kind of show you real quick. I don't know if it's going to be reversed because of the way that my camera is. I have one image pulled up that I think is probably, I don't want to say the most important, but it really kind of holds, I think, the most right in of his meaning. And then we'll dive into what Gage said. But going through the book, this is pretty much presented out to you kind of like, I'm going to say some Dungeons and Dragons type stuff. Like he's presented as having a rank. His attributes and abilities is definitely some role-playing type stuff, which I think is really cool. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that S.O.N is actually into Magic the Gathering, which I've stated multiple times on my channel. I am a fucking nerd, so I never got into D&D at all, but I fuck with that book and showing like his attributes and all that stuff. But going into the actual book was a lot more helpful for me to help understand. And even then I struggled just a little bit until Gage put what he put in my Discord. So the page I'm going to show here is his charge. King Umbra governs the liminal spaces between existence and non-existence, the shadowed valleys where self-deception withers and truth takes root. He offers not comfort, but understanding, not solace, but strength. He demands respect, caution, love, and a willingness to venture beyond the boundaries of comfort. So going back to reincarnation, his charge is to help you understand that there is a bigger world out there. Like in our life, there's a bigger world out there. And looking at his image, he weeps because he sees all of the lives, all the souls, all the spirits that are doomed to just repeat. They're doomed to be reincarnated and keep living life, never learning, never raising their vibration, never improving their spirituality, and just being stuck in that limbo of constantly being reincarnated and living a life where they just live a meaningless life. So then diving into what Gage had to say about it, which really, again, tremendously helped, because there are skits in this album that kind of set up like a tarot card reading. And again, it was kind of trying to dive into what was being presented there. And sometimes I just gotta have someone spell it out for me. So I'm super thankful that Gage did this. But he said the tarot represents different sections of the album and the themes of what Umbra is about, and by extension, what S.O.N. is about. Hanged Man often symbolizes a sacrifice and letting go. Three of Swords is a pain and loss, but also can signify an opportunity of growth and healing. And finally, Death is, well, death, but it is also a new beginning. It's all about letting go it's all about letting go of the pain and things that torment you, moving on and becoming stronger, or you will be trapped in a vicious cycle. Umbra's game. And that, as soon as he put that, it just clicked for me and unlocked. I think he posted that in July in my Discord server, and that's how long it took for me to really finally dive into everything. So King Umbra's game, King Umbra is all about watching over humanity to help shine light on them, and he's represented as a moon. And again, this is my interpretation, and your interpretation may be a little bit different, and maybe this to you seems inaccurate, but this is how I understand it. King Umbra is a moon-like being. He overwatches humanity, and he's trying to shine light on humanity for them to grow and learn to let go, so that they can spiritually move on to the next realm, rather than repeat the cycle of life through, whatever greed they may have, or any torment they're holding on to. They always say that ghosts have unfinished business, and that's why they linger and are trapped here on Earth. I feel like Umbra is there to kind of be a guiding light, and the reason he cries is because he sees so many souls who are unable to do this. Now, one thing that I do want to point out is some very close similarities to another album that dropped this year that is also along the same lore lines, and that is, of course, The Knot. The Knot, when it first was dropped, there were a lot of connections that not just myself, but other people, S.O.N. included, have pointed out about, all the way from the imagery, them both being round-like figures with, mouth open, they have horns. One of the teasers for The Knot had him crying tears of blood. So these two entities feel super connected, and it's very coinky-dinky that this album dropped back in March. We had no images, nothing of The Knot, and The Knot comes out, and we have very similar imagery. It's some definite Dark Carnival type magic if you really dive in and believe in that spiritually. They definitely feel super connected, all the way down to the promotional art for The Knot having an hourglass, and the physical copy of The Bastard Son having a slipcase with an hourglass on the front. So there's definitely some very, very close connections here between The Knot and between The Bastard Son, between King Umbra. So diving into the music, I know we talked a lot about the lore. Again, everything is up for interpretation, I think, but there is a lot of evidence there to kind of, I confidently feel like I'm in a good headspace of where I think and what I think King Umbra represents. And again, Gage was a big help with that. But diving into the music, this album produced almost entirely by Billy Obey, which, if I'm not mistaken, he produced all of or most of Grant Us Eyes. So it really kind of feels like a continuing album, if you will. Like if you listen to Grant Us Eyes and you listen to The Bastard Son, they have very similar feeling vibes to them. Like it feels like a big continuation, which I think is really fucking great. The only song on this album that Billy Obey did not produce is Death, which is kind of like an interlude. It was produced by Slasher Dave, and I think it really fits the vibe pretty well. So going into it, my favorite tracks are The Bastard Son, Where Fear Lives, Under My Skin, Absolution, and Thy Will Be Done. With my favorite track, and this one was pretty tough, I really wanted to give it to Where Fear Lives, but Thy Will Be Done. I just really love the beat. I really love S.O.N. The way he's rapping on this, just the fucking vibe of it. This entire album, though, is pretty fucking solid. It was actually really hard for me to narrow it down to 5. The 5 that I picked are just because the beats I really fucking liked a lot, and I just think he absolutely killed it. I think Bill absolutely killed it on the fucking production. But yeah, this album, pretty fucking solid. If you liked Grand Size, I think there's no reason you won't like The Bastard Son. And if you've not heard either one of those albums, I would definitely recommend going and checking them out. Again, look for Something Out of Nothing on your streaming services. That is how you will find it. But if you really love this album and you really want to dive into the lore, I would say grab you a physical copy of the album. They are still, I believe they are still available over on legionrealm.com. I will provide the link in the description. But getting yourself a physical copy will help a lot, because again, there's that really fucking sweet book that lays out his attributes and everything like that. So, but yeah, really fucking great album, and I really had to sit with this for a while before I dropped my review, because I wanted to make sure I came correct on it and not just really spout bullshit. And who knows, maybe I still waited this long and still spat it off bullshit, but I feel confident in my interpretation of the album to go ahead and do this review. So if you guys have listened to The Bastard Son, tell me down below what you guys thought about it. Tell me what your favorite tracks are. And before we head out, we got to give a motherfucking shout out to our members. Shout out to Crimson Black, Owen Battery, Joker Quinn, aka Leakin' in the Dark, Gage Von Weil, Charmakazi, J Word, Harley VT, Lone Flube, Don't Eat the Crab Dip, Juggalotus BD John, Wes, Seth Moon, aka Cali Green, Jose Jimenez, Durable Object, Kabazucha Boom, Lorgasm, Ivy Killa, Unique Freestyles, Do It For The Underground, and MP23. Thank you guys for your support. If you would like to join the channel to support it, there's a link in the description for you to do so. And yeah, shout out to our members. Again, tell me down below what you guys liked about The Bastard Son. And if you have not listened to it, go peep it, come back, tell me what you guys thought about the album. If you didn't care for it, remember to always be respectful. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.